What's your thoughts on narcissism in general? And can people change or evolve out of it?
I can answer it clinically and culturally. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe we should start by talking about like Christopher Lasch talked about it. We do live in a narcissistic culture.
Selfie culture, the
We
likes.
live in a culture of narcissism. Once you are continuously evaluating yourself, proving yourself, performing, demonstrating yourself, you know, posting about yourself, engaging in fake news about yourself, you are in a narcissistic culture that, you know, criteria, diagnosis accompany the culture of the day. In the 19th century, we talked about hysteria. We do not talk much about hysteria today because we realized that the majority of these hysteric women, supposedly hysteric women, were actually women who had experienced sexual abuse. They were not hysterical, they were traumatized.
Yes.
Narcissism is the word that we come back with on the 21st century. Stress and anxiety and depression was the 20th century. So every century and every culture has its expressions through mental illness or mental manifestations, okay? Eating disorders exist in some cultures and not in others. You know, a diagnosis, a personality disorder doesn't just exist like that without a background. So that means that it's easy to make these issues very personal, but they are also societal. That said, I have sat with people who have a whole range of narcissistic tendencies. To get to saying somebody is a narcissist, somebody is depressed, somebody is, you know, I think that there's more to us than just that.
Right.
But you see a lot of people with narcissistic tendencies, and you see a lot of people who are not just exhibiting it with manifest narcissism, but there's a whole other form of narcissism that is called covert narcissism, which we talk about much less because we don't name it in those ways.
What is the difference?
That is a long conversation. That is really a long conversation.
In the short form, what is the...
You know, power can come from above and power can come from underneath. You can have power through victimization. You can make people feel guilty all the time. You can be passive-aggressive. You can make people continuously feel that they are responsible for your life, that if they don't do what you want, that you may kill yourself. There's loads of ways to make other people submit themselves to you.
And that would be considered
that is, those are expressions of more covert narcissism.
It's not like this domineering... But
you
it's
can
a
control
psychological...
people from the top and you can control people from underneath.
Yes.
You know, I think that there is a certain profile at this point of when we say narcissist, everybody has 5 or 6 associations that are quite similar. And this is really a whole other conversation.
Sure.
But what I will say is that, yes, I have sat with people who have very little regard. People who bring everything onto themselves, people who see everything as a reflection of themselves, people who are charming when they need to seduce you, and then once they think they have you, they turn and they go into the next people who they need to charm, but those that they have already recruited are disregarded and discarded. So those
they got the most out of them already,
You know, people who can lie pathologically to you, people who have very little empathy for what is happening. So there is a cluster of things. But I think for me, I tend to look at behaviors and I tend to look at interactions because I'm a relational therapist and I'm a systems-oriented therapist. And so I less spend my time labeling a personality. I think it's useful on occasion, but it is not my primary vocabulary. But she's very, very eloquent about it.
Yes.
You know.
We'll have to have you back on to do a whole 2-hour conversation on that another time, because there's a lot to that.
It's really, I do not want to talk about complex topics
in a short amount of time,
because it doesn't do them justice, and I don't like to reinforce notions that have not been examined.
Absolutely,
but that are easy to grab on.
We'll have you back on for that. I'll do one final card, and then I think I've got to make sure I'm respecting the time.
That you're going to touch on me. Yep. What is that?
Okay. I'm my own worst enemy when? It's interesting. You
know what?
You want to give me a different one?
Yes.
Okay.
I want to give you this.
Okay.
Because of what happened just a few minutes before.
The last time I cried was, yesterday, in terms of, my father just died 2 months ago. And so I've been crying a lot, every couple of days. I hear a song that really connects me to a memory, to him, and to the whole. It was a sad experience because he got into a car accident 17 years ago, had a severe brain trauma, was in a coma for 3 months. Then he woke up. He went in a different country, in New Zealand at the time. I was in college. Then he came back, and it was like my dad was physically here, but emotionally, mentally, and spiritually not.
Ambiguous loss.
Yes.
This is it.
I never was able to fully grieve.
That's ambiguous loss.
My father. He was physically here, but the emotion.
No longer the same person.
And every interaction I had with him was reminding me of the loss. I'm grateful he's here, and it's great to experience some time with him. But every time I go and say hello, he says, Louis, right? Didn't you used to play? What sport did you play growing up? Where did you go to school again? So he could have a conversation with you and speak conversationally, but it was the same story over and over again. I'm needing to remind my father for 17 years of the memory loss that he had. Show him photos of him with me, taking photos of me playing sports. The second half of my life with him was beautiful. He showed up, he transformed, he overcame a lot of the anger and resentment he had. And I had 2 different lives with him. When I was 13 before, I had some love, some scary with him. Then after 13, it was like this incredible friendship. So it's like I lost my dad, but he was physically here. And every year there was some type of health scare. He had a couple strokes, a heart attack, he had multiple surgeries from the accident, just the complications from the accident. And so every year I didn't know if he was going to survive or not. And it was always, is it going to happen this year? Okay, he's in the hospital now. Is he going to make it? Do I need to be there? In this 17-year cycle of learning to accept something and doing my best to be okay with it. And accepting and loving where it's at, So for me, it was 17 years of I wouldn't say numbing, but it was acceptance and just like managing it the best I could. And then when he passed in February, a couple months ago, it was, just full circle, kind of like going back 17 years ago and reliving that, and then reliving my whole childhood and allowing myself to have a full range of emotions. And I think it's beautiful because...
Do you feel like this time actually you can fully grieve?
I feel like I can.
Because this is ambiguous loss, what you just described. Yeah. Can't grieve, can't mourn because he's there, but he's not there.
Yeah.
And this one gives it... Now you can experience the full range.
Absolutely. I didn't feel like I could. And I feel like I have a more spiritual connection to him now than in the last 17 years. Every night I'm connecting with him in my own way in my little meditation room. And, throughout the days, there are things that come up where I feel the spiritual presence. And it's a beautiful... It's sad, it's beautiful, it's emotional, it's a wide range of emotions. And, there's a lot of sadness I have because I wish it wasn't that way. But I also...
Relief.
I have some relief, and I'm also doing my best to create meaning from the whole thing. So that it's not just this thing I'm frustrated with constantly, but like, you know what? I probably wouldn't be doing this without that pain and sadness and loss. I want to be curious, hungry. I wouldn't have been as resourceful if I had him there. So, yeah, I've been crying a lot. And it's been beautiful to have a safe environment in my relationship with someone who allows that. Because I think that's hard for some people to allow that, especially for men to be able to express their full range of emotions. And for their partner to feel safe with that too. So I feel very grateful. But
Absolutely.
It hasn't been fun, but it's also been allowing me to have like peace with it.
It's an amazing thing that if you ask people when's the last time you laughed, Nobody has to justify laughing.
Mm-hmm. But crying.
But crying, people have to justify it. They have to.
It's interesting you asked
right?
that.
I mean, it is the absolute natural emotion to feel in sadness, in grief, in loss. What man, woman, they, them, whoever.
I had a woman on 2 days ago who hasn't cried in years. And I had a man on yesterday who hasn't cried in, I think, 10 or 12 years. And it's interesting. It's like there's something there, I think, to be able to have the full range.
Of course.
I'm not saying you need to cry all day long or something, but allowing yourselves to feel. But that's probably for a whole nother conversation. So.
I mean, I would say that it's hard for people to really fully say yes if you can't fully say no.
Mm.
And it is hard for people to fully laugh if you can't also cry.
Mm.
If something is funny, you automatically do this. If something is sad, the fact that you stay like that, affectless, or that you repress it, or that you hold it in, or that you don't even notice it, or that the thing is coming down your face and you don't even realize. I've had people tear in my office while they say, I never cry.
What does that mean when someone isn't able to fully laugh or fully cry?
What would it be like if a person comes into this world and doesn't scream? I mean, if a baby doesn't scream when they come out, you think they're death at birth. Mm. What is it like when people make love and make no noise? When it's impossible. I mean, you're a sports person. You know that if you lift something, you make noises.
You scream, you grunt here. Yeah.
You know, the voice is, you know, it's just, what does it mean when this whole thing is closed off?
There's something inside that's missing or dead or trapped.
Or trapped.
Yeah.
Or was shoved down or can't come out. But for sure, it is a blockage. Yeah. Relationship is a story of many people. It's not even a story just of two. Who was too involved in your relationship? Mm-hmm. Who was not involved enough? So there's a cast of characters in a relationship. And it's all those questions that you want to ask when you are in transition.